Hello, my name is Mike Sahari, and I'm talking to you today from the Mission of Riverdale Church of Scientology. We're located at 308 Broadview. Now, today's sermon, we're going to cover a subject that is really, I feel, pertinent to the times, and it's called What is Greatness? Now, we're all being pushed in many directions by the environment, by policies of politicians, country, governments, all the rest of it. So, what is greatness? What is it? So that's what we're going to talk about. So here we go. The hardest task one can have is to continue to love his fellows despite all reasons he should not. And the true sign of sanity and greatness is to so continue. For the one who can achieve this, there is abundant hope. For those who cannot, there is only sorrow, hatred, and despair. And these are not the things of which greatness or sanity or happiness are made. A primary trap is to succumb to invitations to hate. There are those who appoint one their executioners. Sometimes, for the sake of safety of others, it is necessary to act, but it is not necessary also to hate them. To do one's task without becoming furious at others who seek to prevent one is a mark of greatness and sanity, and only then can one be happy. Seeking to achieve any single desirable quality in life is a noble thing. The one most difficult and most necessary to achieve is to love one's fellows despite all invitations to do otherwise. If there is any saintly quality, it is not to forgive. Forgiveness accepts the badness of the act. There is no reason to accept it. Further, one has to label the act as bad to forgive it. Forgiveness is a much lower level action and is rather sensuous, which means critical. True greatness merely refuses to change in the face of bad actions against one. If you're doing something, continue to do something. And a truly great person loves his fellow because he understands them. After all, they are all in the same trap. Some are oblivious to it, some have gone mad because of it, and some act like those who betrayed them. They become the person who's the person stopping them. But all are in the same trap. The generals, the street sweepers, the presidents, the insane. They act the way they do because they are all subject to the same cruel pressures of this universe. Some of us are subject to those pressures and still go on doing our jobs. Others have long since succumbed and rave and torture and strut like the demented souls they are. To re-save some of them is a dangerous undertaking. Were you to approach many ruling heads in the world and offer to set them free, as only a Scientologist can, they would go berserk, cry up their private police, and generally cause unpleasantness. Indeed, one did. He was later assassinated by no desire of ours, but because of the incompetence of his own fellows about him. He could have used Scientology. Instead, he promptly tried to shoot it down by ordering raids and various berserk actions on Scientology organizations. That he was then shot had nothing to do with us, but only demonstrated how incompetent and how mortal he really was. As we become stronger, we can be completely open-handed with our help. So by that, it's like those of us, or those around us who are dangerous and who have things that they want to hide. Sometimes it's not a safe thing to offer up to them that they can communicate their hidden whatevers to you. You become a threat, that you would even recognize that they would have something hidden. But as things improve, then it becomes easier and easier and easier to help. Okay? Until we do, we can at least understand the one fact that greatness does not stem from savage wars or being known. It stems from being true to one's own decency, from going on helping others, whatever they do or think or say, and despite all savage acts against one, to persevere without changing one's basic attitude toward man. This is a personal thing. This is not something that is enforced. This is your decision about your basic self and your fellow man. A fully trained Scientologist is in a far better position to understand than a partly trained one. For the Scientologist who really knows is able not only to retain confidence in himself and what he can do, but also can understand why others do what they do. This is rather important because if you have a certainty of self and your own morals and ethics, then other people's or the environment's morals and ethics don't encroach upon yours because you're looking for any stick in the wind to give you direction. You already have direction, you already have certainty, and you can look at others and see when they have it and when they do not have it. It's a rather interesting point. I'll continue. And so knowing does not become baffled or dismayed by small defeats. To that degree, true greatness depends on total wisdom. They act as they do because they are what they are, trapped beings, crushed beneath an intolerable burden. Now, one could listen to that and think, okay, well, I'm not in jail, I'm not in a prison, I'm not in an oppressed country or whatever. But to the degree that you can't step out of line with policies of government, policies of banks, policies of corporations, you are trapped. You're not able to exercise your own free will to the degree that you might like or should. So being trapped is a relative thing. And then there's also the whole concept of spirituality. If you don't have any confidence or certainty or even a belief in your own spirituality, then the body itself can become a trap. And it itself has its own desires, which you become the effect of. Again, there's many levels of being trapped, and certainty and wisdom is the road out on those things. I'm going to continue. And if they have gone mad for it and command the devastation of whole nations in errors of explanation, still one can understand why and can understand as well the extent of their madness. Why should one change and begin to hate just because others have lost themselves and their own destinies are too cruel for them to face? Justice, mercy, forgiveness are all unimportant beside the ability not to change because of provocation or demands to do so. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this particular line. So it seems to say that justice, mercy, and forgiveness are a secondary thing, and they are to a degree. But he also says are all unimportant beside the ability not to change just because of provocation or demands to do so. Just because somebody says you have to do something, or a government says you have to do something or be some way, and you decide, no, that's morally incorrect, or something that doesn't follow my basic goals and purposes, and you hold your ground on that point, at that moment, you now have the ability to have justice, mercy, and forgiveness. But if you bend to what the government or company, policy, whatever, decides you have to change to suit their whims and ways, then you're operating on another determinism. You're no longer being true to yourself, and you to that degree become less or less great. Okay? Continuing. One must act, one must preserve order and decency, but one need not hate or seek vengeance. It is true that beings are frail and commit wrongs. Man is basically good, but can act badly. He only acts badly when his acts done for order and the safety of others are done with hatred, or when his disciplines are founded only upon safety for himself regardless of all others, or worse, when he acts only out of a taste for cruelty. To preserve no order at all is an insane act. One need only look at the possessions and environment of the insane to realize this. The able keep good order. When cruelty in the name of discipline dominates a race, that race has been taught to hate, and that race is doomed. The real lesson is to learn to love. He who would walk scatheless through his days must learn this. Scatheless means unharmed. Never use what is done to one as a basis for hatred. Never desire revenge. Now, that does not mean you willingly be a fact. What it does mean is that you understand the motivations of those around you, so that you can see what it is that where they're coming from and what it is that they're trying to solve or handle, and don't let it become something that causes you to change from your basic concept of man is basically good. Sometimes he's a little bit unaware, or a lot unaware, of life and living and acts badly because of it. If you educate an individual, talk to an individual, then usually you can find some common ground and life moves on. But it certainly isn't going to happen with hate, because hate puts up a barrier there to the communication. Okay? It requires real strength to love man, and to love him despite all invitations to do otherwise, all provocations and all reasons why one should not. Happiness and strength endure only in the absence of hate. To hate alone is the road to disaster. To love is the road to strength. To love in spite of all is the secret of greatness, and may very well be the greatest secret in the universe. Okay? All right. So we're going to end today with the Scientology prayer for total freedom, which aligns fairly well with what's going on today and also what is greatness. So here we go. May the author of the universe enable all men to reach an understanding of their spiritual nature, and may awareness and understanding of life expand so that all may come to know the author of the universe. And may others also reach this understanding, which brings total freedom. At this time, we think of those whose liberty is threatened, of those who have suffered imprisonment for their beliefs, of those who are enslaved or martyred, and for all those who are brutalized, trapped, or attacked. We pray that human rights will be preserved so that all people may believe and worship freely, so that freedom will once again be seen in our land. Freedom from war and poverty and want, freedom to be, freedom to do, and freedom to have. Freedom to use and understand man's potential, a potential that is God-given and God-like. A freedom to achieve that understanding and awareness that is total freedom. May God let it be so. Thank you for listening. Have a good afternoon.